Welcome. Today, I invite you to journey with me through my personal story of transformation and resilience. I stand before you in white, a symbol of my rebirth, like a baptism, a renewal from deep within. My journey from self sacrifice to sacred self care was not easy, but it has made me the person that I am today, clear in my values, goals, and priorities. Imagine your life as a quilt, each thread representing an aspect of your existence. I come from a beautiful family with excellent support. However, experiences of institutional harm, misalignment in my personal relationships, and a lack of reciprocity in my friendships ripped out many of my threads and harmed my resilience. I didn't recognize the difference between stains and rips. Stains can be cleaned, but rips need repair. On June 6, 2021, my life was forever changed by the first of two ER visits for extreme exhaustion. It was the climax of chronic stress from transitioning into what I believed was my dream career, which turned into an absolute nightmare. In time, I recognized that my values and those of the organization, though all admirable, were in great misalignment. I was driven by unverbalized fears, fears of not being able to support myself, fears of never finding career alignment, and the desire to separate from former toxic dynamics. And because the new career role had an admirable title, I felt it was worth pursuing as I'm a high achiever, right? These deficits set the framework for what would become the most hellacious years of my life. I had been operating out of balance for far too long, poor sleep quality, overworking during COVID-19, running my handmade skincare business, intense workouts, frustration with personal relationships, and transitioning into that new strenuous career all came to a head. The noise and validation of external authority figures drowned out my own voice, causing me to ignore my intuition and veer seriously off course. Can anyone relate? Ironically, self care sent me to the hospital. You heard that right. Self care was the reason I ended up in the ER. I could write a book on self care. I ate well, I had great skincare routines, exercised regularly, and was a dedicated yogi. But these activities did not address the chronic stress and trauma that I had experienced, nor the internal harm that I inflicted on myself by not vocalizing my fears. Yes, I had much self awareness, but I lacked soul awareness. I suffered severe vertigo that would return month after month, high blood pressure, anxiety, and high functioning depression. Crying spells and the lack of belonging I sensed in spaces I spent too much time in harmed my mental health. Conditional acceptance and being celebrated not for who I was, but for what I achieved, unconsciously fueled much of my behavior. Since a young age, I possessed an extraordinary amount of discipline. I'd wake up early, I'd stay up late, and I'd always make sure it was handled, whatever it was. But discipline without balance led me to deficits, and those deficits led me to a very dark place. Can anyone relate? This is the difference between self care and sacred self care. Self care, though important, can often be superficial. Sacred self care, in contrast, regulates our nervous systems, supports our brain health, and sets us up for long term health and success. As you hear my story, refer back to the metaphor of quilts and resilience. Identify the seam rippers and thread reinforcers in your own life. What do you need to pause, pivot, or purge to sustain your health? Remember, it's not merely about surviving, but thriving with a clear sense of self. May you find the clarity and the courage to prioritize your sacred self care, and may your quilt of life be beautifully resilient and whole.